Welcome to the Quantum Lens podcast. I'm your host, Oksana Hansen. This is a space where science meets soul, a heart-centered, conscientious podcast designed to nurture your spiritual, emotional, and physical well-being through the wisdom of quantum biology, holistic healing, and a deep self-discovery. We'll explore what it truly means to live in alignment. If you're ready to open your heart, expand your mind, you're in the right place.
So I'm going to try to discuss the quantum bioenergetics. So just quick medical disclaimer, this is not medical advice. This is just a friend talking to other friends about a topic he's passionate about. And my personal disclaimer on this topic specifically is I am not a physicist. I'm a physical therapist, so I'm kind of going outside of my personal boundaries here. But versus this being a colloquial Methylene Blue 101 discussion, I wanted to kind of bring this discussion towards the quantum health perspective. So let's just jump into, since we're talking about quantum bioenergetics, let's talk about what bioenergetics is. So at a very basic level, bioenergetics is the study of how cells make and use energy, hence it's in the name. And generally speaking, the more efficiently your cells produce energy, the healthier you are. And if we consider from the work of Dr. Doug Wallace, who's considered one of the top mitochondrial researchers in the world, he goes on record saying that essentially the more energy you produce per cell, the healthier, the more vitality you're going to have. Said another way, the less energy you produce per cell, the less healthier, the closer to a state of disease you will be. And that's known as mitochondrial dysfunction. So the typical energy production that goes on in our mitochondria, and this is important because the mitochondria produces upwards of 95% of all of the energy in our body. So that's why I'm so passionate about the mitochondria, is because it's at the focal point of bioenergetics. So once we go inside of the mitochondria, and we're going through the electron transport chain, electrons are hopping through these different complexes, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, where oxygen is used as a final acceptor to produce ATP and the less talked about biological water. And we'll be making more connections to this in future slides. And so this is known as oxidative phosphorylation, the production of ATP, that token of energy, and again, biological water. But what happens when that process of oxidative phosphorylation becomes dysfunctional, we'll call it, electrons will leak out of the electron transport chain, which leads to excessive free radicals, because free radicals themselves are not negative, it's when they become excessive, and then they turn into oxidative stress. Oxidative stress is linked to virtually everything that's not good. So mitochondrial dysfunction, again, is when your energy production, your biological water production goes below normal, below the threshold of normal, and upwards of 80% or more of modern diseases are directly tied to mitochondrial dysfunction. Thus, anything, whether it's natural like sunlight and grounding and molecular hydrogen, or if it's something of a more concentrated form of light like red light therapy, or something synthetic like methylene blue, or these other adjuvants or modalities that improve mitochondrial function, if they do that, then you're going to improve your overall vitality, you're going to reduce oxidative stress, and potentially this is the doorway to longevity and improved health span. So before we start talk about methylene blue's association with the quantum, let's just go through some potential quantum interactions with human cells. So here we go with electron tunneling, where the mechanism is that electrons and protons can tunnel through energy barriers that they classically should not be crossing. So the implication of this is just more efficient energy production and improved biochemical reactions and a decrease in that excess production of reactive oxygen species. We have structured or easy water. And again, with each of these topics, we'll go a little deeper into them. I'm just going through all these potential quantum topics. So as Carrie eloquently said yesterday, when water is structured, we have these coherent layers, and this can support quantum coherence and energy transfer. So the implication is that the structured water that your mitochondria do produce could influence the efficiency of energy production, redox balance, and the storage and transfer of photonic energy, i.e. red and near-infrared light particularly. Then this concept of spin-dependent biochemistry, where the spin of the electron affects how chemical reactions proceed, and this can be influenced by weak magnetic fields. So this electron spin has implications for circadian biology, your mood, and sensitivity to geomagnetic fields. So we'll get into how that could be with methylene blue. And then maybe the most popular one is its interplay with light, specifically, or especially red light therapy. So with methylene blue in your body, that dark blue pigment has an affinity for red light, specifically 660 nanometers or 670 nanometers. And so essentially, with the blue pigment in your body, your physiology is going to capture more of those red photons, thus you're going to have more electrons, more energy running through the mitochondria to produce energy and biological water. So when we consider methylene blue as this bioenergetic enhancer, again, it's this concept of improving what's going on in the electron transport chain to improve your energy production, ATP, and biological water production via these two concepts of redox cycling, shuttling, and reducing reactive oxygen species. And so when we talk about redox cycling, it's the concept of methylene blue at the end of the day is a potent antioxidant, it's a potent antiviral. So as an antioxidant, that means it's an amazing electron donor. It can donate electrons, and methylene blue can also receive, donate, receive, donate, receive. Specific to the mitochondria and the electron transport chain, there's issues along especially complex 1 and complex 3, where electrons are trying to go through these different complexes to ultimately produce energy. If there's a backlog at these complexes 1 and 3, that's where these electrons are backing up, and we have that spill, which turns into free radical production and oxidative stress. So methylene blue can donate its electrons to complex 1 or complex 3, wherever it's needed to facilitate that normal flow of energy production. And then if we want to go a little deeper, wherever there's electricity, there's going to be magnetism as well. So not only does methylene blue have the potential to improve your energy production or that electron flow, but it also improves magnetism in a sense. So again, by normalizing the flow of electrons inside of the electron transport chain, that inherently mitigates excess reactive oxygen species, i.e. free radicals. So again, anything that can do that inherently is going to improve energy production. It's going to improve that biological water production, which again, from a bioenergetic perspective, the more energy you produce per cell, the healthier you're going to be. So methylene blue has a pretty large role to play there, potentially. So back to these quantum roles, this concept of the electron tunneling with the methylene blue. So electrons may quantum tunnel via methylene blue's aromatic ring system, which is its ability to facilitate being an electron transfer, improves redox cycling, and the light absorption properties of methylene blue is because of that aromatic ring system. And so we'll get to some interesting facts here in a moment. But again, with electron tunneling, the electrons tunnel through areas where they normally wouldn't be able to. And to put this into perspective, just follow the bottom right of the screen for a moment in these subsequent slides. 100,000 electrons per second are going through your mitochondria. And that's a single mitochondria. And this is likely influenced and facilitated by quantum tunneling. So, okay, again, 100,000 is for one mitochondria. But most people, the average person, has 10 quadrillion mitochondria in their body. So when you do the math, that's 10 to the 21st power electrons are flowing through all your mitochondria per second. That's 1 sextillion. I had to look that up. But if you compare that to quantum computing, for a computer to do 10 to the 21st power bits per second, that makes your mitochondria astronomically more powerful than any computer or quantum computer on the planet in terms of information or electron throughput. Pretty impressive. Who said that? Who gave the who? I mean, come on, that's pretty amazing, right? Like your cells, your mitochondria is more advanced than any quantum computer possibly will ever be. So, okay, that was quantum tunneling. Now let's go to water here for a moment. And Carrie would say this more articulately than I would with her expertise in water. But from a quantum perspective, how does it work? How does methylene blue potentially influence our easy water production? And again, back to this concept of helping with redox cycling. Methylene blue helps maintain redox environment and membrane potential. So it helps stabilize membrane potential, which is important because if your membrane potential goes down, that's essentially your charge in your cells going down. And again, electrons are facilitating charge. So if methylene blue can donate electrons, if it can act as a potent antioxidant, it's going to help maintain membrane potential. Of course, its properties with its photodynamic capabilities with red and near infrared light. So from the work of Dr. Gerald Pollack, the closer you get to near infrared light, the better you can structure your water, or the more you can create this easy water, that separation of electrons and protons. So light facilitates that. So if you have methylene blue in your body and you're absorbing, or better absorbing, that red and near infrared light, then potentially you're helping build that easy water. Oxidative stress is always a party pooper, and it's the same thing here. If you're able to reduce oxidative stress, again, by normalizing the electron flow, then you're also going to help reduce disruption in easy water production. And this one's an interesting one. Quantum coherence and easy water enhancement hypothesis. So some researchers speculate that methylene blue could enhance quantum coherence in the mitochondria, which would then overlap with the easy water's proposed role in maintaining coherent domains of structured water. And like I mentioned with Dr. Pollack, I had the privilege of meeting him in person last year, and then I had him on my podcast recently, and I posited to him that if we do anything to improve mitochondrial function, again, whether it's full spectrum sunlight or grounding or improving your circadian rhythm, anything that improves mitochondrial function, does that also mean we can improve our cellular hydration without drinking water? And he believes that's a plausible theory. So again, things like red light therapy, or things like grounding, or things like C60 or methylene blue, which improve mitochondrial function, actually improve your internal hydration status without actually drinking water. So the quantum role of photonic resonance with methylene blue. Again, when methylene blue is in your body, it's going to capture more of those red photons, specifically red, and that's going to facilitate normalized electron flow. It's going to help reduce reactive oxygen species, which reduces oxidative stress. And so there's a massive potential for therapeutic synergy for those that use methylene blue in concert with red light therapy. And so one anecdote I can give you from an osteopathic doctor who I've interviewed, Dr. Yoshi Ram, he's over in California, but he does methylene blue IV with tons of his patients. And an anecdote that he gave me that really exemplified the power of red light therapy plus methylene blue is patients that have UTIs. He'll do the methylene blue IV, and then right after, he's doing red light therapy over their bladder, and the UTI just disappears, essentially. So I think there's a lot more to be explored with how these two can be used in concert together. And then here's kind of a nice list of the synergistic benefits of doing red light therapy plus methylene blue. Because in isolation, red light therapy is very powerful in a myriad of ways to improve mitochondrial function. Same thing with methylene blue. But again, when you use them in concert, there's a lot of potential to have a synergistic benefit. So a lot of these we're all familiar with the benefit of either red light therapy or methylene blue: improved energy production, reduced fatigue, reduced reduced oxidative stress, improving the mitochondrial transport chain, all that good stuff. But I'll bring your attention to the bottom two, which is the photoactivation component of methylene blue with red light therapy. So you're able to enhance the redox cycling, or the energy or the electron flow. And then, kind of like I alluded to with that story from Dr. Ram, light activated methylene blue kills pathogens without harming the host tissue, so like the UTIs. And then to this concept of spin-dependent biochemistry. So still kind of in the field of methylene blue as a photosensitizer. When that methylene blue captures or responds or is excited by that red light, it transitions, the electron transitions into a triplet state. And so when electrons are in a triplet state, this leads to parallel electron spinning, which this parallel electron spinning could help explain how biological systems are able to transfer information or transfer energy at the quantum level. So of course, this has the potential to improve energy and biological water production, reduce reactive oxygen species below excessive levels, because we still want the little bit of ROS for redox signaling, and then enhancing neuroprotection. That's not a complete list, but just kind of highlighting its potential. And so again, with methylene blue and red light therapy, this is known as photodynamic therapy. And if methylene blue in your body is capturing more red photons, then that would also lead to the speculation that it actually requires less of a red light therapy treatment or dosage to attain the same outcome when methylene blue is in your body. So one interesting piece of research showed that methylene blue, when used with red light therapy, improves neuronal energy production in your brain or central nervous system by 80%. So pretty substantial. When combining methylene blue and red light therapy, this concept of a nonlinear biological effect, meaning a little bit goes a long ways. Especially with methylene blue, I don't think it takes much of a dosage in combination with red light therapy to see a positive result. So things to consider, of course, are the timing, the dosing, which we'll get to here in a moment about the timing and dosing. More is not always better. I preach that with red light therapy. Same thing with methylene blue. They've done research where you go above 15 milligrams and there's not necessarily an additional benefit. So they did research where they did like 10 milligrams and 15 milligrams for schizophrenic people with methylene blue, and then they would go up to 30 or 40 or 50 milligrams. But once they got past that 15 milligrams, they didn't necessarily see any additional benefits. As you can see on the bottom there, the general, this isn't a consensus, but a general thought is if you're doing methylene blue with red light therapy, reduce your red light therapy session by about 30% because of the increased, you're capturing more red photons for a given moment in time, essentially. So again, this is not a comprehensive list, but methylene blue and red light therapy used in clinical applications is pretty widespread for any neurodegenerative conditions, especially Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Really, when COVID started, methylene blue had some research within the first month or two. We just never heard about it publicly, similar with hyperbaric or really anything that worked besides vaccines. But there's a lot of potential with red light therapy and all types of viruses because, again, methylene blue is potentially one of the best antivirals out there. So even if you don't want to use methylene blue like as a mitochondrial booster or as a biohacking modality, still having some methylene blue on hand for whenever you come down with a virus is potentially a good thing to do. And also for long COVID or any type of COVID or type of respiratory condition, nebulizing methylene blue has been shown to be very effective as well. Another thought of using methylene blue, especially with red light therapy, if you have a methylene blue liquid formulation, putting like 3 or 4 drops into 3 or 4 ounces of water in a spray bottle, and you can spray that all over your face as an anti-aging skin treatment. You could spray it into your eyes. There's a lot of potential with methylene blue in eyes because your eyes are very mitochondrial dense. So just some potentials there for red light therapy and methylene blue, or just methylene blue by itself as well. So dosing and application. Therapeutic dosage is about 0.5 to 4 milligrams per kilogram. And again, that's pretty high when you compare it to the one below, which is the traditional biohacking dosage of 10 to 15 milligrams twice per day. Once in the morning, once towards the second half of the day. Because if you start doing upwards of 4 milligrams per kilogram, now we're getting into a couple hundred milligrams, which the safe and effective dosage range is upwards of 500 milligrams. So that's still safe and effective, but what we're doing is biohackers are mitochondrial enthusiasts is extremely, extremely low. And I say all that because methylene blue, especially if you have a legitimate pharmaceutical grade, is much safer than you think, considering it's a synthetic substance. So again, applications, if you're going to do it with red light therapy, there's a piece of research showing when you ingest the methylene blue, the peak plasma concentration is about 90 minutes post-ingestion. So if you're pairing it with red light therapy, you would take your methylene blue, do your red light therapy 1 to 2 hours later to kind of hit that peak, the golden hour, to get that peak plasma concentration. And then again, like I said before, potentially reducing, this isn't a hard and fast rule, but again, if we're considering you're capturing more red photons in a given moment compared to not having methylene blue in your system, potentially reducing your red light therapy session by 30 to 50%. So in essence, your red light therapy sessions are becoming more efficient. Some safety considerations, the one that's most common is the SSRIs, which, based on what I've read and learned and listened to, is highly over-embellished. It stems from 4 to 5 isolated incidences where surgeons were doing parathyroid surgeries, they were dumping methylene blue into the surgical sites, which is not atypical. They do that for brain surgeries and heart surgeries. But these patients happened to be on SSRIs, and so these 4 or 5 instances led to fatal events. So from those instances, it's been this global blanketed statement of methylene blue plus SSRIs is no good. And again, I'll harken back to my podcast. I interviewed a gentleman, he's in Canada. He has potentially the biggest red light therapy clinic in the world, and he's been using methylene blue a lot with his patients, again, in concert with red light therapy. And he's seen over 10,000 patients throughout the years using methylene blue very often, many on SSRIs or different types of medications, and he said that he has yet to see a negative side effect. So that's just an anecdote, but kind of just to paint the picture of, even if you are on SSRIs or other things, of course, safety first and consult with your doctor, but based on what I've read and learned, that's a little over-embellished. G6PD deficiency, and then just like red light therapy, pregnancy and breastfeeding, you don't want to irradiate the active sites, or if you have an active cancer, or the womb if you're pregnant, not because it's quote-unquote bad, it's just we don't know what the side effects are. You could have a super baby, but there could be some negative ramifications. So better safe than sorry until we have more research. So key takeaways, methylene blue, potentially one of the most profound antioxidants out there. Antioxidant, electron donor. Electrons run through the electron transport chain, produce energy. Bioenergetics, the more energy you produce per cell, the healthier you are. So some pretty profound or potential implications there. Again, improving ATP biological water production, reducing reactive oxygen species, which reduces oxidative stress, which mitigates your potential for a laundry list of diseases and cancers. I think as the research continues to come out, and in my company, BioLite, we'll be doing a good amount of research in the methylene blue space in the near future, so I'm excited about that. But I think we're kind of at the tip of the iceberg with the potential of where methylene blue can impact health, longevity, cancers, and who knows what else. So methylene blue is not just a chemical, it's a quantum biological agent. It interacts with light, water, electrons, and redox environments in ways that resonate with the emerging science of quantum coherence, photobiomodulation, and biologically embedded intelligence. I have 3 minutes. Do we have any Q&A? Oh, okay. Sorry.
There's a lot of science out there now about food dyes and how it causes toxicity, particularly in children. How is this different, and can children take it?
So this, I don't want to give out any medical advice. Food dyes are different than methylene blue. I mean, I haven't taken a deep dive into food dyes, but they're more carcinogenic. I don't know their mechanisms of action specifically, but I would guess based on the fact that they're so carcinogenic and unhealthy that they are not an antioxidant, that they are not antiviral, that they're not helping the mitochondria. In essence, anything that is unhealthy for us, in some way, shape, or form, I think impacts our mitochondria negatively. It leads to mitochondrial dysfunction. If it's healthy for us, if it leads to more energy, it's probably good for our mitochondria. And another one to consider from a mechanistic standpoint of how red light or how methylene blue improves mitochondrial function is that it reduces NO production, which flies in the face of the thought process that we want to improve our nitric oxide production. So I just want to delineate there because someone brought that to my attention. Because if nitric oxide is good for you, methylene blue inhibits nitric oxide, how can methylene blue be good for the mitochondria? And that's because when you dive a little deeper into the NO rabbit hole, there's 3 types of nitric oxide. There's eNOS, nNOS, and iNOS. So eNOS is endothelial nitric oxide synthase. eNOS is improved. There's two of them that are good, one of them that's bad. eNOS, nNOS are good. eNOS is improved by red light therapy. nNOS, which is neuronal NOS, is improved by hyperbaric oxygen therapy. iNOS is inducible NOS, which stimulates the immune system, which is not inherently bad, but it's analogous to chronic inflammation, where inflammation is a signal, it's a good thing. When it becomes chronic, now we've got issues. So in this world where we have so many environmental toxins and issues that are bombarding our mitochondria, it's constantly provoking or causing iNOS to be turned on, or our inflammatory system to be constantly turned on. So by methylene blue, I would say more normalizing that to homeostatic levels, if you will. That's what methylene blue is doing as far as reducing nitric oxide, is it's reducing the quote-unquote bad one to normal levels. So kind of the golden trio of improving your nitric oxide would be red light therapy, hyperbaric oxygen, and methylene blue. And I know people like Dr. John Lawrence, Dr. Jason Sommers, they're huge fans of that, and they're constantly advocating for that. And I think a key reason why is because of what it's doing to the NO. So I'm 10 seconds over, but I appreciate you guys with your patience at the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Quantum Lens podcast. I hope this episode brought you insight, inspiration, and a deeper connection to your journey. If you've loved what you heard, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Let's keep this conversation going. And until next time, keep aligning, expanding, and embrace the magic of who you are.